In this video, I'd like to tell you about one of my favourite budget amps. It's very portable, sounds great for the money, and I'd like to tell you all about it. So the amp that I'm talking about is the Roland Cube amp. In this video, I'm going to be discussing the pros and cons of this amp and what I found out about it. So let's get on with the video. Hey everybody, Jamie Holroyd here, helping you learn jazz guitar. Welcome to the channel. If you're new around here and you'd like a structured guide on learning jazz guitar, then please check out my free beginner jazz guitar ebook. The only Roland Cube which still exists on the market is the 10GX. Before that there was different and bigger models of that same amp, but they have all been replaced by the Roland Blues Cube. So if you're looking for the amp which I have, which is the 20GX or even a 40GX would work, they can only be found on the used market, and generally speaking these are very cheap and affordable amps. Over the years I played and used all the Roland Cube models. I've owned 3, including my current one, and sold 2. So for point of comparison, the 2 which I previously owned and have now sold were the Micro Cube, which I originally got as a busking amp and an amp that I could take around and do some teaching with, but I don't really do that kind of thing anymore, so it was just sitting around gathering dust, so I let that one go. And the other amp which I used to have was one of the old big orange Cube amps which you see Jimmy Rainey and Ed Bickett use. The Orange Cube was a great sounding amp, but I found that very heavy in ratio to the volume that you get, and that was a common problem with the older solid state amps from the 80s and 90s. Not all of them, but quite a lot of them were heavy in comparison to the volume that you can get out of them, especially when you compare that to some of the modern equivalents like what I'm talking about in this video. The first reason why I really like the small Roland 20GX is that the volume to portability ratio really checks out for me. So if you need an amp that's loud enough to play maybe small gigs, or if you just want to take one to a small jam session, this would absolutely be loud enough. In fact, when I first heard this amp used at a jam session, I couldn't believe that it was only a 20 watt solid state amp. I thought it must have been a 40 watt amp. So that's the good thing about the volume. It's very, very light. It's actually lighter than my Polytone Mega Brute and some other small jazz amps that I've used over the years. So that's another pro. And perhaps the final pro to this is that the reverb, the onboard reverb, is pretty good as well. It's not the best reverb I've ever used, but it's certainly better than the reverb that you find on Polytones and even Henriksons and other jazz amps actually. It's a surprisingly good spring reverb sound. So how does the amplifier sound? Well, I'm currently playing my Rode 1 Telecaster with upgraded pickups and electronics into my 20 GTX, and I'll put a picture of the settings on the screen now just in case you're interested. So in terms of the sound, here's the single note sound of the amp. So nice and clear, nice and transparent. The chords, also nice and clear. So I basically turn the volume off a little bit on the guitar itself to tame some of the high end, and I think the tone, I turn that slightly off as well. So this is with the tone on maybe 8. And now if I back that down even more, I think I like that more actually. So as you can hear, that's kind of the classic JC clean that you can find on the bigger Roland amps that's popular with like Mike Stern, Ed Bickett, and you get that in this small amp right here. So it sounds great, I think. Now, does it sound as good as a Polytone or a good tube amp? Well, that really is debatable. Maybe not. Maybe not. I don't know if I could ever let go my Polytone in place of this, but like I said, if you want something that's cheap and portable, then this is pretty much hard to beat. And if you do occasionally use other sounds, obviously this amp has those in abundance as well. So if you ever want to use a bit of delay, a bit of overdrive or a bit of distortion, They're not the best distortion sounds ever. It's not going to compare to a good effects pedal or something like that, but equally it's a heck of a lot better than what I've heard on other amps in that price range. So if you think about other cheap solid state amps, things like the Line 6 Spider or one of the Stag practice amps or a Squier SP10 practice amp or something like that, you know, the distortion on those amps kind of sounds like a bumblebee. But the distortion on this Roland Cube is surprisingly good, and even the overdrive, if you want a bluesier overdrive sound, is surprisingly good as well, actually. As I said, I don't know if that would really substitute like a tube screamer and a tube amp or anything like that, but for practicing and for portability and ease, it's pretty hard to beat. Here's a few chords and bass lines so you can hear the balance of the bass strings with the chords. So is there anything that I don't like about the Roland Micro Cube? Well, not really, especially when you look at the price point, right? You're talking about an amp that is generally under $100. So if you compare that to the other amps in that price range, then there isn't really any amps that I like more. But at the same time, it's probably not going to take the place of my Polytone or a Music Man or something like that anytime soon. I find that those amps just have a little bit more depth to the sound, a little bit more punch, a little bit more warmth. But if you're looking for a clean sound, and let's face it, if you're playing straight ahead jazz, you only really need a fairly good clean sound. A lot of it comes from your fingers. You can manipulate the tone and the volume. Then it's pretty easy to get that type of sound with this amp. I would say it's not really too bad at all. I have found that some brighter guitars, it can be a little bit less forgiving with some brighter guitars, like for example my Strat, which I do find to be a lot brighter than a Tele, can sound okay, but occasionally that can sound a little bit more sterile than the Telecaster. Humbuckers work great. Obviously humbuckers generally have a little bit more kind of warmth to them than single coils, but yeah, any brighter sounding guitar, I'm not really too fond of how they sound from a Cube, but certainly a Telecaster or a humbucker guitar can sound great. And by comparison, if you was using a Strat and you plug that into a Polytone or a Hendrickson, then you could probably get a much better sound from one of those amps if you've got a Strat type of guitar. I hope that you found this video useful. What do you think of the Roland Cube? Please share your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you own one? Do you currently own one? Have you owned one in the past? Do you like them? I'd love to know what you guys think, and if you want more videos like this, then don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thanks for watching.